Fostering the growth of the private sector is underpinned in the East African Community's development strategy. But how easy is it for the private sector to do business in East Africa? Hello and welcome to East African Voices. I'm your host, Laban Clifford Serio. Today we begin our show right here in Bujumbura, Burundi, where we look at matters doing business in East Africa.
For an investor looking to establish a business in East Africa, what will be the top key priorities in scouting for the best opportunity? What about small-scale traders seeking avenues to expand in the region? It all boils down to the environment of doing business in East Africa. Africa is viewed as a continent ready for growth and investment. The international press have described it as a continent on a growth path, using terms such as Africa Rising. But what's the practicality on the ground?
If you look at the Africa market, East Africa actually stands out. That it's got the right culture. We now have resources, both I would say underground and above ground, which is the mobile people. The people skills set in East Africa is actually very good.
It will seem that these are the right numbers that cause the investors to put their money where the mouth is.
The time is now ripe to really accelerate our progress. We've done a lot of thinking, we've done a lot of planning. It's now time for execution on all fronts. And I think the way it's going today, it's fantastic, because when you look at the whole of East Africa, right, that's 5 countries today. But the greater East Africa, I foresee Ethiopia coming in on board, and South Sudan, and then of course DRC. Once that really happens, it's a matter of time. And I think we just got to make sure that this becomes a very attractive area without any tariff barriers and without any non-tariff barriers.
The World Bank, in its Doing Business series, ranks the East African countries based on parameters such as availability of electricity, ease of business registration, access to credit facilities, regulatory environment, and cross-border trading. In the latest update, Rwanda leads the region in the ease of doing business. Rwanda ranks 52nd globally, Uganda is at 120th globally, followed closely by Kenya at 121st, Tanzania at 134th, and Burundi at 159th position.
What was useful for us is that the World Bank has a specific set of indicators, and those indicators don't change year after year. Specific set of indicators: access to credit, connectivity to electricity, how long it takes to register business, how well you're doing in terms of solving insolvencies, and so on and forth. So it did work for us.
For me, what matters is how are we grading ourselves in East Africa. I would really like East Africa to have its own doing business index, where we measure how easy it is to do business with one another, so that we can learn from this measurement and make policies that are going to help us make progress.
But even as integration proceeds, the presence and inconvenience of internal borders may be getting in the way.
I would have loved to look at East Africa as one place with 155 million people today. This would be one of the biggest trade blocks in the whole world, maybe the 7th or 8th largest in the whole world, after China, India, United States, Europe, and a few others. United States, and a few others. And what are we going to do with 155 million people or consumers? There's a lot that we can do. But today we're still engrossed in this 45 million market of Tanzania, 40 million market of Kenya, 10 million market of Rwanda. We have different trade rules, different standards, different trade regimes, and it's just making business very difficult. We cannot compete with the rest of the world under these circumstances. But if we had a 150 million market, we could actually afford to break some rules, to have fights with the WTO, because we want to protect this 150 strong market. People would listen to us.
People are moving within the region as envisaged in the East African Protocol, but this is still not happening at adequate pace.
If we are going to take full advantage of the potential in East Africa, we must allow this mobile resource, which is the human being, to actually move freely across the region. The benefit of that is that these people will also be able to learn along with each other. Yeah, if they are able to, the best skills are put in this area, the people around him will actually learn from him, and we'll create a workforce that is, the envy of many in Africa.
What has made us not move at the pace that we would have wanted to move at? And a lot of that has to do with national fears, a sense of insecurity that if I open up, my people will be denied jobs. Other countries may be, a step ahead, and they will take up all the jobs, or they will take up all the opportunities. It is these fears that I think we must begin to deal with. And I think the beginning of dealing with those fears is for us to start saying that our people are the East African people.
Some of the sectors that are expected to gain are the financial, mineral and ICT sectors. The widespread use of Safaricom's mobile money transfer service M-Pesa, Tanzania's gas finds, billions of barrels of oil in Uganda, and the expansion of banks throughout East Africa are examples of positive growth potential in these states.
Naturally, this area has a lot of convergence in terms of the business that we run. The aspirations of our people, for instance. Today, we are sitting in a market of close to 150 million people in the region. If you look at the latest statistics for 2013, and the size of this economy now is roughly in excess of $100 billion. Not too big, but this is the biggest bloc outside West Africa and South Africa. So we've seen a lot of improvement in terms of growing the opportunity.
Tanzania has discovered huge resources of natural gas in the region of 55 trillion cubic feet, and currently, and there is more to come. Some people think Tanzania will be able to establish a resource of something of over 100 trillion cubic feet, even if not more.
Agriculture still remains one of the more lucrative possibilities for investors.
We do normally sell coffee, tea, but we are now working on alternatives products like vegetables, fruits, flowers, whereby we think that we'll be having also a number of investors, not only foreigners but also nationals, where they are quite interested in investing and export. We are working on an export program, by the way, which will be partly financed by Trademark East Africa, and improve our trade relations within the community, but of course, also, if possible, it can also cross the community going in another country interested by our products.
Back to that investor. After research on the regulatory environment and market research, the rubber meets the road. How does the entrepreneur ensure market accessibility? Infrastructure is crucial.
You may produce farm products, produce, you can't get them to market, you can't get them to export on time, they rot, they spoil. It's bad for the economy. The roads and the railway system will allow you to efficiently move those products, as well as minerals and people as well, moving throughout the community.
Though not developed to its full potential, East Africa's transport infrastructure is on its takeoff. A greater proportion of goods are transported via the road network, but plans are underway to ease pressure from the road network while still improving on its maintenance. The standard gauge railway line is a prime example of this.
Work has started in earnest now, real work on the standard gauge rail. The contractor is on the ground. He started on October 6th, physical work that now goes into counting in terms of percentage. We have impressed upon him that we must, complete this project within 3 years and before 2017.
The rail project is also expected to ease congestion at East Africa's Indian Ocean ports. Though the positive effect of such infrastructure is yet to be felt in the economy, the mere fact of its launch seems to have some investors upbeat.
we'd still like to see cargo cleared quicker. We'd still like to see cargo pre-cleared. You know, if you take, for example, South Africa, most of the cargo is pre-cleared before it even arrives. We'd like to see that happening more and more. And through initiatives such as the Northern Corridor or the Port Community Charter for Mombasa Port, there's a firm target of 70% pre-clearance by next year. So I think, you know, everyone has signed off on that, including the Revenue Authority, etc. So, you know, we're putting the building blocks in place as a port community to make that happen. In Tanzania, we see also the Big Results Now initiative, which is government driven, and also a lot about trying to improve doing business, improve the speed at which goods move, reduce non-tariff barriers. So we're seeing good initiatives actually in both corridors. We'd like to see them both move faster, of course.
We listen very keenly to what they say. Any form of a complaint or suggestion coming from those countries that use Mombasa Port. And that is why we have opened up, KPA has opened offices in Bujumbura, in Kigali, and in Kampala, just to make sure that we treat them as customers. We treat them as customers, and the customer is always right. If they complain about anything about non-tariff barriers, we pay attention to it. We don't take it as a, you know, as a complaint. We take it as something that is going to have value addition to us and to them.
Energy is another area of great excitement in the region. Recently, there has been great interest on generation of power projects, including Kenya's 5,000 megawatt plan, Tanzania's gas finds, Rwanda's methane gas, and Uganda's oil. Even with such resources, the underlying concern is on how to make this reliable.
The reason power goes off in East Africa, in Dar, in Tanzania, and Uganda, is because our networks are very weak. But if we have people producing power on site, and the word is smart grids, powered by solar, powered by biogas, powered by decentralized wind, powered by batteries, and industries doing this and investing their own power sources, then they can feed power into the grid, and the power companies become more of the traders and the groups that maintain the system. So it's not just about big power projects anymore. That's kind of retro. There's a lot of room for new small power projects produced by the companies and households and communities themselves.
That said, the government's step in ensuring this is realized is one to be encouraged.
Despite Uganda being a landlocked country, it is hoped that those reforms will spur the growth of industries in this nation so as to relatively cut its reliance on importation of goods. East African Voices now takes a commercial break. When we return, I take you to one of the region's fastest growing nations to understand its business climate. See you then. Welcome back. Did you know it can take you between 3 to 6 hours to register your business in Rwanda? It's this short span of business registration that has endeared this country to investors willing to set up shop here. We're right here in Kigali and would like to find out what makes Rwanda a leader in doing business and what other East African countries can learn from it.
Rwanda's business registration office may confuse any first-timer as it may not come across as a government office. Tucked away on the periphery of Kigali, the office here serves the ever-increasing number of entrepreneurs wishing to set up shop in the country.
All we require is that you go onto our website and there's an online registration user manual that will take you through the process. But at the end of the day, you only have to fill out one form and the rest is all, filling in the required data blocks. It's important to understand that the facilitation and when we talk about a business being registered within 6 hours in Rwanda, a huge element that has contributed to that is the use of IT systems. Yes, it is online, but also we have electronic registration systems that are merged with other government agencies that are obviously important when one is starting a business, such as the Rwanda Revenue Authority and the Social Security Board. So all we did was merge our systems, our electronic systems, with their electronic systems, so that we're essentially providing an electronic one-stop, an electronic one window, and you don't have to physically go to all of these. So with the use of IT, the opportunities and the possibilities are quite limitless.
So how did Rwanda manage to come top in East Africa in the ease of doing business?
We defined a purpose for ourselves and a shared purpose. That was really what kick-started some of the progress that you see today. We have what we call our Vision 2020. This is really the blueprint, that feeds into everything that we do, on a day-to-day basis. And this was a product of a consultative process. So we consulted widely with, from the grassroots. It was a bottom-up approach, trying to get the people involved. What is it that you want to see Rwanda 20 years, down the road? And from that process, we were then able to distill into what are the development, the key pillars that we need to make sure are in place and that would enable us to then become a middle-income economy by the year 2020.
It is this tolerance that has seen investors, particularly in these sectors, jostling for a piece of the Rwandan growth story.
I would say hats off to Rwanda. They are fantastic. They have shown leadership, they've shown how to do it, and I think they're really doing it well. Their execution ability is fantastic. When they plan something out, they really look at the do-how and the know-how, and they get it done. It's a learning for all the other countries, including Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. I think we've got to learn from how to get it done. We've got to get away from excuses to say, it's about our economy, it's about our democracy or whatever. I don't think so. I think it's really very good planning and very good execution. If we learn from it, we can actually get things done. What they say, they do. I think if every country started doing the same thing, your audio and your video, if it was synchronized and you really get it done, there's no reason why East Africa as a whole would not come up on the indicators in a bigger way. We've got to stop being cosmetic about this, and we've got to really do the diagnosis of the problems and really find solutions.
So what lessons can other East African countries learn from Rwanda?
It is only our religion. Our religion in Rwanda is that what is good for business is very good for Rwanda, for all of Rwanda. And this is working for us. And we believe that what is good for business is actually very good for Rwanda. It's very good for Rwanda, it's very good for Rwandans.
The financial sector is said to be among the most profitable in the region. Banks have engaged in a change of tact and creating products targeting the small-scale traders.
It's a major milestone to say that can I be able to improve my financial capability where I am running and run my business. So a simple example. So today I'm in Kabale in Uganda, near the border with Rwanda. And what I'm saying is I can run my business, my small milk business, transact with the bank, deposit my money, withdraw my money, and run. That is one. On mobile banking as well, a complete game changer in the way, and of course brought in by M-Pesa as a different way of enabling financial transaction from the mobile device. That way a customer is able to save his money, he's able to borrow money and pay on an online portal.
The 10-year plan towards a monetary union has had the central banks engaging in modalities of how to make this a reality in the coming years. The entrance of China into Africa has been received with mixed reactions.
There is a lot of interest and investment from China. In fact, Africa now is the second highest or second global destination for investment, which is, again, I think a very positive thing. All I would say is, if not them, who? If it's not the Chinese investing in Africa, who is? It's certainly not coming from Western Europe, it's certainly not coming from the US at the moment. So,
should Africa be scared?
For example, if we make a decision that we want East Africa to become a major apparel manufacturing hub, where because we produce cotton, we can add value to cotton and produce fabrics, and from fabrics we can create apparel that can be sold in the region but also exported. To be able to do that, you will have to protect your industries from imports that are extremely cheap, that are coming from the Far East, from China. Now you do that, people say you're being protective, but so are other countries. There is no such thing like free trade in Europe or free trade in America or free trade elsewhere. And China, of all the places, is the least free. They protect everything. Until recently, they're protecting even their technology companies from competition from the West, while at the same time aggressively copying those same technologies from the West.
Economic growth blueprints such as Rwanda's Vision 2020, Tanzania's Vision 2025 and Kenya's Vision 2030 show commitment to keeping up with the growth story, bringing in the question of political will.
Integration is a benefit for everybody. And if you're talking of the East Africa integration, let it be integration proper. If you hold back, then you are actually not realizing the full benefit. So, and I raise the issue whether as East Africa, or indeed as Africa, do we have a unity of purpose? Do we agree that this is what we want to achieve? Because if you agree that this is what we want to achieve, then any barriers that are within your hands should not exist. Yes, use other barriers that are outside your sort of abilities, but those ones that are within your sort of ability to manage and deal with.
The government calls on the private sector to also have a borderless mindset in carrying out their business operations.
If we are to take full advantage and develop our economies through our own initiatives, we must allow our people to move across our borders freely. And this is something that I am always encouraging our colleagues, that please, let us not be fearful of one another. Let us demystify this long-bred attitude that I am doing this to protect my people. Your people are the East African people. Open up, allow our people to move freely, and in the long term, the benefit will be the growth of our regional economy.
The world has woken up to the fact that Africa is rising. Statistics point northwards, and the region promises a limitless potential.
As we've seen on the show today, apart from the economical numbers pointing towards growth prospects in East Africa, there is an air of political goodwill to encourage the growth of the private sector to doing business in East Africa, and we'll be holding them accountable for that. As always, we value your feedback and we'd love to hear from you. Find us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter @evoices, or you can email us your comments. Our email address is on your screen. On behalf of the team that made this production possible, from me right here in Nairobi, till the same time next week, it's goodbye.